Hi guys, my name is Akila. If you're new here, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys 6 tips and a few bonus tips on how to grow healthy, strong, natural hair. I'm going to skip the long intro and I'm going to go right into tip number 1, and we're going to start at the bottom, and that is to protect your ends. The ends of your hair are the oldest part of your hair. It's the part of your hair that needs the most attention, the most TLC, because the truth of the matter is we do not want our hair growing at the root and breaking off at the ends, because then it's going to feel as if our hair is not growing, when in actuality our hair is growing. But in order to retain that length and actually see results, you always want to protect your ends. And one good way to protect your ends is by trimming your hair. If you think of one healthy strand of hair and you think of that one strand splitting into 2 split ends into 2 weaker strands of hair, now think of that split end rising up that one hair shaft, creating 2 weaker strands of hair. You want to nip that split end right in the bud before it's able to rise up that hair shaft. So trimming your hair is important, it's necessary in growing strong, healthy hair, but I do not recommend you to over trim your hair, nor do I recommend you to have a trim schedule. I suggest that you trim your hair as needed. I know that a lot of people say they trim their hair every 6 to 8 weeks, every 3 months, however it goes, but I personally feel like if that time has passed and you do not need to trim your hair, I don't think that you should. Me personally, I trim my hair once a year. I have one scheduled trim once a year, and that is when I do my silk press so that I can get the most accurate trim. Throughout the year, I do ask my stylist, does she think I need a trim? Most of the time she says no, sometimes she says yes, and when I do need one, I get one, but if I don't need one, I don't do it. And I recommend you do the same. Don't follow any trim schedule, but do pay attention to the ends of your hair and trim your hair when necessary. The other way to protect your ends is by keeping it moisturized. If you don't take anything else away from this video, take this away. Dry, brittle hair is not going to grow, so you always want to make sure your ends of your hair are nice and moisturized. Which brings me to tip number 2. We started at the bottom, now we're going to go to the top, and that is to maintain a healthy scalp. The way to do that is to make sure that your scalp is clean, if not all the time, majority of the time, because we don't want any blockage, we don't want any buildup. We want our hair to be able to grow out of the follicle and have room to grow. So I would minimize the amount of products that I use to weigh down my hair in order to keep my scalp nice and clean, which promotes hair growth. The other way to take care of your scalp is by using essential oils. Whatever oils works best with your hair, oil your scalp often, and remember, it's not enough to just put the oil into your scalp. You want to work it in. There are a lot of massagers out there. There are electric massagers, there are handheld massagers, but if all else fails, at the end of the day, you can use your fingers and your hands. Make sure that you're massaging the oils into your scalp, because this gets the blood flow circulating and it stimulates hair growth, and honestly it feels good, so why not? I normally massage my scalp as a pastime, whether I'm watching TV or I'm waiting for anything and I don't have anything else to do. You're gonna catch me massaging my hair at all times, because like I said, it feels amazing and it stimulates hair growth. Which brings me to tip number 3. We started at the bottom, we went to the top. Now let's focus on the actual hair itself. And like I said before, dry brittle hair is not going to grow, so make sure that you are constantly moisturizing your hair. I use the moisturizing routine, I believe it's called the LCO method, which is water, and then the LCO is leave-in conditioner and oil. And the oil that I use is olive oil, but again, you can use any oil that your hair responds well to. So what I do is first I section my hair, and then I spray each section with water, and then I apply my leave-in conditioner, and then I apply my oil, I twist it, and I let it air dry. I don't dry my hair, I don't blow dry my hair, I just let it air dry. And I do that routine multiple times a week because my hair personally does not retain moisture well. If your hair does retain moisture well, then you don't have to do that routine as often, but you always want to make sure that your hair is nice and moisturized, because we cannot neglect our hair and expect it to show results, expect it to grow, expect it to be healthy. We have to apply the methods that are going to put our hair in the best position to grow. So moisturize your hair constantly. And bonus tip number 1 are steam treatments. I recently did a steam treatment video, and I showed you the results of my steam treatment, and like I said, my hair does not retain moisture well, so I have to do my moisturizing LCO routine often. And I noticed when I did my steam treatment that my hair retained that moisture well from the treatment a few days longer than it would had I not done it. And that particular week I was able to moisturize my hair and do the full routine less often. So constant moisturizing of the hair, making sure that it's not too dry, it's not getting brittle, it's constantly healthy, and steam treatments are a way to do that. Bonus tip number 2 are protein treatments. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that our hair has a good moisture and protein balance. So every so often I recommend doing a protein treatment. The one that I used, and I also did a video on this, was the Apogee 2-step protein treatment. And I saw amazing results, and I saw them immediately. So I do the protein treatment whenever I feel like overall my hair is weak and my hair just needs that little extra bit of oomph. And that is when I did it, and that is when I showed you in the video, and I saw results, like I said, immediately. The before and the after, once I finished that entire routine, it was like night and day. My hair felt stronger. It felt like it got exactly what it needed. And so I recommend, while you're doing your moisture and making sure that your hair is moisturized, add a protein treatment every so often so that you have a good balance. Tip number 4 is to find the products that work for you. I can tell you all day what I use and what works well for my hair, but at the end of the day, we all have different hair needs. What works for me may not work for you. I know that I have a problem of my hair getting dry quickly, but if your hair retains moisture well, then we don't need to be using the same products, and vice versa. So find what works for you, and the way to do that is to identify your specific hair needs, do a little bit of research on what lines and what products from those lines address those needs, and read reviews. That's honestly how I find my products. And this is an extra bonus tip that I wasn't even planning on telling you, but make sure the reviews come from, you know. Just look out and make sure that the reviews are coming from the right people, so that we know what products we should try on our hair. Sometimes it does take a little bit of trial and error, but trust me, once you find the right products that work for you, you're gonna feel like you found the holy grail. So find what works for you. Don't listen and just automatically use what other people use, because again, we all have different hair needs, and you want to make sure that the products you're using are addressing your specific needs. I read product labels the same way I read food labels, and of course, you know, hair products have a lot of ingredients that I don't even know how to pronounce, so I don't really know exactly what it is and what they do, but there are certain keywords that I look for. One of them being sulfates and one of them being parabens. Sulfates pretty much translates to alcohol, and we wouldn't consciously put alcohol in our hair, so we also don't want to subconsciously put alcohol in our hair. It's very drying, and from what I understand, parabens are pretty much the same thing. So you want to stay away from sulfates for the most part, and you want to stay away from parabens. So find lines of hair products that do not contain these things, and a lot of the times those are selling points. So it'll tell you right on the bottle, sulfate free, paraben free, and those are the kind of products that you want to stick to. The moisturizing products, you know, when you read a food label, and the same thing when you read product labels, the first ingredient is what it has the most of, the last ingredient is what it has the least of. So any moisturizing products that you use, make sure that water is the first ingredient. Make sure that it's a water-based product. And yeah, just find the products and the lines that work best for you. You know how your hair should feel, especially after a wash day. After you wash and condition, it should feel soft, it should feel manageable, it shouldn't still be feeling dry, because that has happened to me where my hair is still completely wet and I'm feeling it and I can't explain it, but it feels dry and it still feels hard. That's how you know that that product is not for you. Find what works for you. Tip number 5 is to utilize protective styles. Whether you've done a big chop or you're transitioning your hair, protective styles are going to be your friend. Me personally, I transitioned, and especially when the top half of my hair was natural and the bottom half of my hair was still permed, and I wasn't confident enough to cut that off yet, nor was I confident enough to wear it out. I was utilizing a lot of protective styles, and even though now my hair is fully transitioned, I still utilize protective styles. And those can be anything from braids, twists. Protective styles can also be high buns, low buns. If you're using a bun as a protective style, just make sure that your ends are again moisturized and tucked away. And if you're using extensions or braids, twists, whatever, just make sure that it's low manipulation. We don't want any tension on our edges. We don't want these hairstyles to be too tight, because that can easily go very wrong. You can still style your hair, but just make sure that it's not too tight or pulling too hard. Whether it's the edges, whether it's the middle, we want to make sure that our protective styles are low manipulation. Tip number 6 is to avoid using heat on your hair as much as possible. I said earlier in the video that I do the moisturizing routine of the LCO method, and for me there's no heat involved in that. Once I apply the products and I twist my hair, I let my hair air dry, and I repeat that process a couple days later. If you must use heat on your hair, like me, the only time I apply heat is when I'm doing my protective styles, just to make sure that my roots are straight enough for the style. I blow dry my hair on low. And the other time I use heat on my hair is once a year when I do my silk press in order to do my accurate trim. And when I apply the heat on my hair, then I always use a heat protectant. So I suggest do the same thing I do. If you are going to use heat, try to use it on low. And if you need higher heat, never ever ever put the heat directly straight to your hair. You always want to use a heat protectant to create some type of barrier between the heat and your hair. And if you drastically reduce the amount of heat, if you look up ways to incorporate styles that, you know, there are heatless curls, there are ways to stretch your hair without applying heat. If you utilize those and drastically reduce the amount of heat, you're going to see amazing results in your hair. Now let's get to the bonus tips. Number 1, avoid the harsh chemicals on your hair. That would be the bleaches, that would be anything that's going to lift your hair in order for you to color your hair. Save that. If you must do it, save it for the professionals that actually know what you're doing. We're not going to do any home experiments on our hair. If you do want some color, save that for your protective styles. Save it for your wigs, save it for your braids, save it for, you know, any extensions that you're adding onto your hair. If you're like me, you're going to get tired of the hair color anyway. I don't care how beautiful and amazing it looks. After a few weeks, you're going to get bored of it anyway. So the best thing to do is, when you are bored, be able to take it out and go back to your natural hair color. But I would just avoid any, especially any home experiments. So I would avoid those harsh chemicals altogether. Bonus tip number 2 is to monitor the amount of shampoo that you're putting in your hair. Shampoo, while it does clean your hair, is also very, very stripping. The same way I mentioned earlier, not having a trim schedule, I also do not have a shampoo schedule. Much like how I trim my hair, I shampoo my hair as needed. And I also mentioned earlier in the video that I avoid products that are going to sit on top of my hair, weigh my hair down, build up in my hair, and that allows me to use less shampoo on wash days. So even though shampoos are good, like I said, they're also incredibly stripping. So if you minimize the amount of shampoo and stick to 1 to 2 lathers maybe on wash day, your hair will be in a good position. And also, you know, when you do use a shampoo, you want to make sure that you're adding back that moisture, adding back all the nutrients, because as the shampoo gets rid of the dirt and the buildup, it's also stripping your hair of those nutrients. So make sure that you're putting it all back, making sure that you're using good deep conditioners and adding back all of that moisture. But monitor and limit the amount of shampoo that you use. Bonus tip number 3 is simply to pay attention to your hair. I'm a firm believer in your hair is going to tell you exactly what it needs. Sometimes you need an extra bit of moisture, so you might need a steam treatment or a deep conditioning treatment. Sometimes you might need a hot oil treatment. Sometimes you need a protein treatment. Sometimes you need a trim. Sometimes you need to add a protective style. If you've been doing a lot of protective styles, sometimes your hair just needs to breathe. Whatever it is that your hair is telling you that it needs, pay attention to your hair and don't get so caught up in rigid schedules and rigid routines so that you're neglecting what your hair is actually letting you know that it needs. Pay attention and do what your hair is asking for you to do, and you'll maintain healthy hair. Number 4 is to seek medical attention if you're experiencing hair problems, whether it's hair loss or overall hair damage, and you know that it's due to a medical or hormonal reason. I know that the tips that I'm giving you in this video are going to maximize the potential of your hair growing nice and long and strong and healthy. But again, if you know that you're having medical problems or experiencing some type of hormonal imbalance, I suggest that you seek medical attention, because sometimes in addition to these tips, maybe you also need to add some type of supplements, doctor recommended or something like that. So again, if you know that you're experiencing some health problems and as a result you're seeing hair damage, definitely in addition to these tips, seek medical attention. And my final bonus tip is to simply be patient. Do not listen to anyone who tells you there's a magic pill out there or a magic treatment out there that is going to grow your hair overnight, sis. It's not true. The only thing that's going to grow your hair is you being consistent in your routines and you giving it time. Once you incorporate these into the other routines that you have, you wake up every day, you brush your teeth, you shower, you eat, you may go to the gym, you go to work. These are the things that you already incorporate into your life. Incorporate taking care of your hair, and don't even think about it. Once it's a part of your routine and you're just doing it, in time you're going to see results. In time you're going to be shocked at how your hair has transformed. You're going to see healthier, stronger, and even longer hair. So just be patient, give it time, be consistent. Don't think that you can just do these routines every once in a blue moon and you're going to see results, because that's not how it goes. Consistent, give it time, and you will see results. So I truly hope that you learned something from this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that there were a few takeaways that are going to help you along your journey, because we're all in this together. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.